We're getting wrecked. Times are tough out here, boys. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Soul. Good morning, Plasma. Good morning, mainnet beta. And good morning, Bears.
Dude, Plasma. Like I said, I don't know if it's even live yet. It's 8:33 a.m. here in the state of Florida. It's 9:33 p.m. over there in Korea.
No forgetting that. That's for sure.
Yeah. Seoul, Korea.
Andy, why don't you kick us off today by giving a message to the Bears? The Bears who are out there, they're listening, they're watching, they're celebrating.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to the Bears?
Dude, all I got to say to the Bears is you got like another week or 2 weeks of having some fun. And then after that, well, Bitcoin's going to start to go on its Q4 rally. So good luck.
Are you saying that directly to Ansem?
Dude, Ansem is probably going to be right for like the next bit. I think if you think about it, all we're doing right now is money flipping from alts to Bitcoin, basically. It's just like a rotation of Bitcoin, as my boy Benjamin Cohen has called it for many, many months. So, look, guys, don't stress. Bears are short term. They're just here for a bit. So, what would your message be on Plasma Mainnet Day? We got to see what's going on with that thing. Haven't even seen this actual mainnet launch yet. It's a little bit concerning.
As far as I know, the founder of Plasma is scheduled to join us on Rollup TV tomorrow, Friday, September 27th.
Yeah, he is. He is indeed.
So I intend to ask him directly tomorrow, September 26th, Friday, about Plasma's mainnet launch. I intend to ask him, what are the 2 billion in stable coins doing on Plasma?
Yeah. Well, they're earning some yield on Binance. That's what I saw today. There were in Aave.
Okay, so Aave is live on Plasma right now?
Well, that's I'm pretty sure the chain's live, but I haven't really seen what's going on. Like, I haven't seen an announcement. I haven't seen anything. A little bit confused.
The coin has a price on CoinGecko. And you know that because it's the only thing that's not red today.
Yeah.
And so it kind of sticks out a little bit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we also saw screenshots of a block explorer.
Oh, you did?
There was a chain ID that was posted. It was by a research company. I think it was our friends at Kairos.
Yeah, nice. Dude, I got a couple things. First of all, I'm going to get this YouTube link out to my Telegram chat because we're giving out base codes today.
Ooh. It's very kind of you, Andy.
We got 4 base codes to give out. And yeah. So that's going on. That'll be happening today. We will be giving out base codes. That should be fun. And the main thing here is just to try to onboard people to base app and then get them to use the streaming product that we rolled out yesterday. Otherwise, I think the big other announcement or big kind of conversation point is that all these prediction markets are on South Park, which is just wild. I mean, Kalshi and Polymarket are both live on South Park. People trading on the app, showing the actual brand. Zero sponsorship went into this from what I understand from either team. And this has just gone fully viral in like the biggest way possible. So very, very, very cool for prediction markets today. And just kind of like the state of things there. So yeah, pretty interesting, and hope to kind of see more of where that goes.
I think I'd like to watch the South Park episode before bed tonight. Have it playing as I fall asleep, so I can absorb prediction markets in my dreams. I also heard the South Park display for the prediction markets that they were using in the episode was a exact copy of 𝘗𝘯𝘵's interface.
Mm.
Found that pretty bullish.
Same. Yeah, I think that's cool. I mean, there was a ton of different things here. Like, Ultra joined 𝘗𝘯𝘵 yesterday. Hey, somebody just bought some ETH on base. It's pretty sick. I'm gonna pull up the base app.
Ooh, very cool. Very cool.
We got Matthew Siegel coming up first. He's having some
someone just bought some Bitcoin.
Nice. It's probably bullish. No?
I think that's bullish for the boys. Bullish for the boys and the girls. Everyone who's out there watching in the Rollup TV community.
All right, well, I'm giving out one base code. I got a base app code to give out if you're watching this in the YouTube or X setup on live streaming. If you're watching this, tell me when you think the base airdrop is going to go live. Give me your best prediction for when base will launch their token. Drop it in the chat. Drop it in the YouTube or the Twitter chat. And if it's a good prediction, you'll get a base code. We've got 4 of them to give out. Again, if you are wanting a base code, there is a chat on X. You can click the little sidebar and see it there. On YouTube, it's up on the right side of the screen. If you're on mobile, it should be on the bottom. Tell me why, or tell me when you think the base app is going to go live, or with the base token. Tell me when you think the base token is going to go live. Okay, we got one already. We got RC in the building. RCN Q2 2026. Not a bad guess. RC, drop your Telegram. Drop your Telegram in the YouTube chat or DM it to us on Twitter. Sully Finance says 2030. I'm going to respond to that one and say bad answer, Sully. GTFO, bud.
Unfortunately, I think Sully is more accurate.
You think
than RCN.
What is your base boys going to think about that one? Let's pass this over to Rob on the screen here. I'll be right back. I'm going to read the rest of these comments here in a second. Rob can take it away. Check the comments out.
And he went to go find more comments. Actually, no, he went to go find more base codes so that he can share more base codes with you guys. The tips are rolling in. It's great. I see you. Your username's a little bit hard to pronounce, but I see you buying Bitcoin. I see you buying ETH, and I see you tipping. And we appreciate you. And so grateful that you have chosen Control the Stream mini app to engage with on this fine Thursday, Friday, wherever you may be tuning in from. We're going to get even more base codes. If you need a base code to give to your friend, ask us. Tell us why you think you are fit for a base code. Remember, this is an exclusive app. It's in a closed beta. There's only so many users, and we have exclusive features that are rolling out. There are very, very early opportunities that are available only on the Base app. Remember, Base is launching a token. They are starting to explore what a network token for Base looks like. Decentralization is a top priority for Base. They are very, very keen on decentralizing the network. Coinbase has a public equity that is trading on all of the regulated stock exchanges. Base has none of that. They are looking to decentralize their network and put shareholders at the top. 𝘗𝘗𝘃𝘗𝘗𝘗 That's my best attempt at saying your username, AI Schuster. It's not a bad username once you say it a couple times. AI Schuster.base.eth. That is a heck of a username, and we appreciate you. And I think just by tapping the buttons that you're tapping, and you may be spending a cent or a few cents or $1 maybe even, and that is coming out of your pocket. But you know what? Base is going to launch a token. We don't know when, but we know it will happen. And when it happens, by interacting with this stream and our mini app on the Base app, you are positioning yourself for a Base airdrop. That may be a bold claim. However, we don't know the details. We don't know the specifics. The reality is that Base is decentralizing. They're launching a network token. We have launched a mini app on Base, and it just makes sense. Doesn't it just make sense that if you interact as an early adopter of Base through their ecosystem of mini apps, such as the Rollup mini app, Control the Stream, doesn't it just make sense that you're positioning yourself early for a Base airdrop? I don't think I'm making any claims that are too drastic here.
I mean, I agree.
Andy, thank you for your tip. I think by tipping and interacting with the Rollup mini app, Control the Stream, you yourself are positioning yourself as an early adopter for a Base airdrop.
What's going on in the chat? All right, Sully, no one else responded in that chat. Let's check YouTube. RC, Creator 9, dropping you a base code right now, RC. Congrats.
Shout out RC. Come on, give Sully a base code. Give Sully a base code. He earned it. He brings up a good point. Base token, we have two predictions. We're between Q2 of 2025, or excuse me, Q2 2026.
Yep.
Should be about 9 months from now, give or take. Or 2030.
Creator 9, base code is in your excuse me. Creator base code is in your DMs, brother or sister, whatever you are, wherever you come from. We don't judge. It doesn't matter to us. Get on the Base app.
Guys, follow in the steps of AI Schuster.
All right, our boy 𝘗𝘳𝘃𝗧𝗏 said Q1. I'm going to say why. Why Q1, buddy? Give us some depth to the answer. Come on, bud. Come on. Come on. All right, we got a banger lineup for you guys today, by the way. We're having some issues with our boy here, Matt. We're going to have to maybe reschedule him. So that's unfortunate. All these people that are on these like high-tech office Wi-Fi signals that are all freaking secure are kind of problematic. So it is what it is. That's what happens when you're running a live show. Can't win them all. So we'll have to roll Matthew into a later show and make sure he's in a proper setup, which is totally fine. So let's go back to where we're at on the Base app.
Yeah.
And see what other codes
we were talking about how interacting with our mini app is positioning yourself strongly for a Base airdrop.
I agree. Definitely agree. And I mean that's kind of like the main point of, I would say, using the Base app at this current stage. It's very much like in its early days. But I mean, at the end of the day, at some point it's going to be, probably a pretty big app. And so yeah, it'll be interesting.
I think Jesse did say that how many users they have currently. I think it was about 40,000, maybe 50,000.
Yeah, which is like 1% of the Coinbase wallet users, apparently. Sully Finance with the 2030 answer. You have a Base code in your DMs, a Base app code in your DMs, bud. Congratulations, my boy. Congratulations. That is 2 base codes given out today so far. Again, the question for you guys is, when will the base app go live? But more importantly, when will the base token go live? Wow, here we go. So he thinks Q1 is going to be a pretty good time for the token. Q4 is too late. Q2 too. You know what I mean? What about that rumor app on Hyperliquid? The chain is live since a long time. All righty, agriculture, send your damn telegram in the chat on YouTube. Let's get you fired up, bud. Let's get you going. We'll get you on the base app. We'll get you interacting. We'll get you positioned for the base airdrop.
That's all we're trying to do here, guys. We're trying to help you. Help us help you. You help us by commenting and liking and retweeting and engaging. We help you with a base code and therefore open up access to our mini app and therefore open up access to the base airdrop.
Yep. Big vibes. So, all right. That is the base app code.
How many more codes do we have for today?
All right, here we go. 𝘂𝘃 got you. What about that rumor app on Hyperliquid? Yeah, that is the rumor app on Hyperliquid is being built by the alt layer team. It's still very, very fresh. So, you know, it's in beta. I can get you code for that as well. If you guys like, just let me know. 𝘗𝘪𝘴𝘬, I got you with a base app code coming your way right now in Telegram. Congratulations, my friend. You are officially a base app user. Check out the stream, check out the vibes, load up your wallet, and enjoy. Enjoy. All right, guys, again, the question for the base app codes is, when do you think the base token is going to go live? Drop your answer in the chat below or on X. If you're watching on YouTube, there's also a chat. Feel free to ping it in there. I don't have the X chat up. I need to refresh it. So if you're in there, let me know. And yeah, that's where we're at. We're giving away 4 codes already, Rob.
Wow.
Oh, yes, please on rumor app. They want a code on rumor app. All right, well, we got to get a rumor app code. Let me ping the alt layer, guys. See what we can do. See if we can start giving away codes in the stream. I'm pinging them right now for you there, new type. See what we can do. I just ordered an Apple TV. I'm about to be like, dude, the screen share that's about to come is going to be insane. Guys, the question for base app codes is, when will the base token launch? Answer that question for us with an answer that actually makes sense, and we will ship you a base code. The chat is on X. The chat is on YouTube. Feel free to do it at either spot. And yeah, we're fired up. We're ready to go.
We absolutely are. We're fired up. We're looking into Plasma. We're investigating.
Yeah, what's going on with Plasma? Is the token launched?
Plasma did tweet 2 hours ago, but as they were supposed to.
It was supposed to be.
They tweeted about Binance and Aave. The token is live. 3 of the largest companies in crypto, Aave, Binance, Tether, brought together only on Plasma.
Yeah.
Trillions.
Fire. Rob, maybe you can give us your just kind of general stablecoin outlook here as we wait for some more base code farmers to give us their answer. Again, guys, when will the base token launch? You've got 8 minutes before we got our first guest Emod on. Rob, what is the Plasma thesis? Why is Plasma going to survive and differentiate, do you think? You know, or maybe even better asked, why is a chain that is meant for payments like the next logical step for Tether? You know, Plasma being the first one, and we'll go to you solo. Go rip us a quick one here.
Andy, that's a great question.
Yeah, like, why is a Tether chain so important? Like, what is the value of the chain that settles the majority of Tether of USDT transfers? Like, are we comparing this to the DTCC? Are we comparing this to like all the clearinghouses? You what is like the real world comparison for a tether chain?
Part of the genius of Paolo is that he didn't build just one tether chain, as you're seeing most of the other stablecoin issuing companies are doing. They're building out their own stablecoin chain. It's exactly what Circle did with ARK. They built it out themselves. Tether instead said, we want stable chains, plural.
Yeah.
And they've been able to enable an ecosystem of chains. And so when you think about how unique that is, what you normally have is you first have a chain that gets launched.
Yep.
And then you say, okay, we want to build an ecosystem of applications on top of this chain. What Paolo realized early on is that the asset issuers hold the keys to the universe. And by issuing the majority of stablecoins in circulation right now, billions and billions and billions, and soon to be trillions and trillions and trillions, they have a level deeper than the chain. They underpin chains, plural, with their assets. So I think the genius of Paolo was to take pause and say, we're not going to build and launch our own chain. We're going to enable and incentivize an ecosystem of chains on top of Tether, multiple stablecoin chains on top of Tether, and let them fight it out. Healthy competition ultimately benefits the entire ecosystem. And in this case, stablecoin chains built on top of Tether, duking it out and engaging in healthy competition, all of that competition ends up benefiting Tether as the asset issuer. So I think that is part of the unique insight that Paolo and Tether have.
Yeah, and then they also have just like Ethereum, Tron, and like all the other chains. They're just like public chains that just use Tether for everything as well. So it's like they're really just everywhere. We had a question. So there's Plasma, Stable, Tempo, and ARK. I think that's the main four for now. But then, of course, you've got, like the Polygons, you've got the Ethereums, the Trons, you've got the ZK Syncs, the Aptoses. Like you've got these other kind of like chains that already facilitate a lot of payment volume live already. So, I mean, those are kind of the other suite of the, contenders within the payment chain race, which I think is, there's definitely real competition in the ones that have already launched and then the ones that are coming up to launch.
Right. And to the earlier point, all of this healthy competition benefits the asset issuers.
Yeah.
Right. Because, as there's more chains and if they have unique value propositions, they're going to, they're all demand.
Plasma mainnet live.
There we go.
Tweet is out.
There we go.
Live. Boom. Boom.
Very cool.
The new global financial system is here. Plasma mainnet. Bang. Beautiful. Chain is live. Tokens trading. Boom. Look at that. Check CoinGecko. Where are we at? Guys, again, we're giving away one more base app code before this next guest. He'll come on in a couple minutes. It is when will the base token drop is the question. Sorry for the brain fart there. I'm looking at the Plasma chart. Plasma launches at $10 billion FTV, $10 billion FTV. It is currently trading at $10 billion FTV. What a monster launch.
You may ask yourself, look, is Plasma bullish or bearish from here? And I'm not going to directly answer that question. That's up to each of you to decide. However, I think it is worth noting and observing that the valuation of Tether's rumored raise as of recent is a similar multiple between their FDV and our understanding of their asset, their balance sheet. Or actually, no, is that not true?
Yep.
No, because their balance sheet is 5.5.
Wait.
Their balance sheet is 5.5 billion.
I'm putting on a banger Plasma tweet.
5.5 billion, and they're rumored to go live at 500, or raise their latest round at 500. Plasma has $2 billion in assets. I guess it's not exactly their assets though. That's just TVL. That would be, what do we have here? Circulating Tether, 173 billion. So I guess that's about a 2.5x between TVL and market cap. And Plasma is currently about a 5x. It's not too dissimilar. I mean, it's double the multiple that Tether is currently raising at.
Dude, this is a pretty huge launch. I mean, given the state of affairs today, it's pretty impressive. Yeah, we'll have to get Vance on the show and Michael from Framework to talk about it soon. Yes, New Type asks, it's 500 billion, right, for Tether IPO ? That's insane. You know, I don't know. I don't think that they're raising for. I don't think it's an IPO necessarily, but that's what they're raising in the private round, probably just from like some special investors who, you know, they want to have on.
Yeah, I mean, they want to fund 20 billion, and when you're at the scale that Tether is at, one of the most valuable companies, the most valuable bank and financial institution in the modern age, you know, they can fill that relatively quickly. It's more so about finding the right people and investors for that. Historically, you remember when Elon took Twitter private and he was looking for funding, you know, he texted Larry Ellison and Larry Ellison was like, yeah, $1 billion or whatever you think. So there are 20 people in the world that can do that or more. And there's certainly institutions that are strategically aligned and also have the capital to fund a round of this stature. So I think when Paolo tweets, you know, he says, and I think he's being genuine. This is only if they want it. They are exploring the idea of a round.
New Type says 500 billion with 10 employees. It's going to be a fire documentary in 10 years. Hey guys, good job, Andy and Robbie, for real. Thanks, bro. Much love. Glad you got the base code. Guys, I think that's probably wraps up our base code drops for now. We got a awesome guest setting up for our first show. And yeah, we got 𝘗𝘳𝘧𝘍𝘗𝘧𝘍𝘗 talking about AI. I mean, he's the founder of Stability AI. He's a friend of the show. So we're stoked to have him on to get that in. We're going to roll into the intro animation, guys. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back for the AI Super Cycle episode number 2. See you guys soon. Let's get started. Alrighty, guys, welcome back to episode number 2 of AI Super Cycle. We are joined by 𝗗𝗦𝘬𝘐𝗓, the founder of Stability AI, currently building out an awesome product in intelligent internet. It's Andy. I'm here with Robbie. AI Super Cycle is presented by 𝘗𝘳𝘴, one of the leading AI projects in crypto for blockchain, if not the leader, building out the decentralized AI vision. Focus on privacy, focus on user ownership, user-owned AI, and really just this open source nature of this industry. Very, very important discussion to be had today on this subject with 𝗗𝗦𝘬𝘐𝗓. 𝗗𝗦𝘬𝘐𝗓, welcome back to the show. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, it's been what, 5-6 months, Rob, maybe since we last spoke. I'd love just a quick update, man. Like we were speaking about intelligent internet, kind of what your vision was with regards to democratizing access for things like education, for things like healthcare, these types of things when it comes to open source AI and the importance of kind of the organic nature of certain models, of certain training data. It's been quite a while. I'm sure you guys have shipped quite a bit. So maybe just another quick intro as to what intelligent internet is and just get us caught up on all the progress, man.
Yeah, I think AI time is like faster than even crypto time. It's like 10 times normal time. So it's been like, 3 or 4 years since we last talked. Yeah, so the goal of intelligent internet was basically to increase the intelligence of humanity by giving everyone access to high quality AI for the stuff that matters. Because right now we're seeing a lot of AI for, entertainment, chatbots, businesses, and others. But who's going to make the AI that teaches your kids? Or Albania's just had an AI minister. What's she programmed on, right? Who's going to build the AI that does your healthcare? So we saw an opportunity in that because of this $1 trillion of AI spending, at least 20% is going to go into public sector type stuff. So we were like, why don't we build that really great first? This stuff that's based on common knowledge. Other people can build the other types of AI, but let's make it so that more of this compute goes towards organizing cancer knowledge and making it available to people. Organizing global regulation on digital assets to allow people to encompass them, giving AI to teach every kid in the world so they have the same access. So we brought over kind of a core team from Stability AI, my previous company. We had like 300 million AI downloads. And over the last few months, we've been building a state-of-the-art full stack solution. So AI Agent is a state-of-the-art agent that can build websites, presentations, everything, fully open source. Common Ground is a multi-agent software that does everything from planning to execution of really complicated workflows. And then we've been releasing models and data sets as well. So we released, for example, AI Medical 8B. It's an 8 billion parameter model that fits on your laptop and outperforms any human doctor. And so we're going to make that better and better with the goal of next year, everyone will have education, health, government, full stack AI solutions that they can just take and run on 𝘗𝘂, run on AWS, run on their own computers to really make that difference. The final bit was tying it all together. We think we're at this takeoff point now where these AI agents can basically displace most of human cognitive labor. In fact, cognitive labor is going negative. So we just released our book, The Last Economy, about what the economic system looks like going forward. Proposing one backed by AI, using AI itself. And we're about to release the academic papers behind that as well, which has been super fascinating, exciting, and a little bit scary.
Wow. I think there's so much to unpack. You've been a visionary in the space for so long. And so you've really outlined your vision, and now you're working to make it a reality. One of the things that strikes me is the composability of this. You mentioned how you can run these agents, these models, you can run them on 𝘗𝘂, you can run them on another blockchain. You can start to tweak and tailor these agents to your particular liking based on several factors that maybe we'll get into. So when you were building this, leveraging some of the experience and stability, what were some of the things that were non-negotiables? You said, despite how others are building it, these are ideas that we are staking our reputation on, we're staking our company on, and effectively the future of this particular model. What were some of those non-negotiables that you implemented? Could you explain those to us?
Yeah, so it was a really interesting experience. We released Stable Diffusion at Stability in August of 2022. So that's 3 years ago, It's been like 1,000 days since ChatGPT now. It's been like a year since '01. This stuff moves fast. And when we released it, we were like, it makes pretty pictures. And then we released the video models, I think, the year after. And now look where the video models are. We looked at the pace of all this. And we were like, we released the first version of Stable Diffusion Open. The final version, Stable Diffusion 3, before I left, was kind of this open up to $1 million type thing. And that felt kind of wrong, you know? But it was like, how do you build a business model around these? This is the question. And Vitalik Buterin has this great essay called The Revenue Evil Curve. You know, it's like you start out like really good, but then when you're building infrastructure, you go rivalrous and exclusive. You restrict access, or you compete against other people. And then you turn a bit evil, and then companies turn more and more evil because they're kind of dumb AIs. So the first thing was, we were like, education, government, finance, like the regulated industry stuff that's based on common knowledge, doesn't require any IP or private knowledge. That should be free and available to everyone. It should be MIT. It should be proper infrastructure. And again, a big part of our global economy is that type of stuff. And in the AI age, it should be that kind of stuff. The next thing is the composability. Like when we released Stable Diffusion, again, we were like, pretty pictures. And then people were like, well, if I say a woman, it doesn't give me a woman or a man in my culture. So we released Japanese Stable Diffusion, where, you know, you type in salaryman, and instead of having a very happy man, you had a very sad man, you know, like it has all the cultural nuances. So we're like, how do we make that composable and build these data sets? Because the ways models are trained is actually known as curriculum learning. You have generalized data, then more and more specific data. So we were like, you've got to have those. And then the interesting final one was, it was kind of non-negotiable to have it really directed built, in terms of a lot of the projects and things here are like, let's have an emergent architecture, something like a bit tensor, right? Like this stuff will just emerge. And it's a marketplace of ideas. We were like, no, we should probably have like really dedicated core teams that build the best autism stack or cancer stack in the world, and then drive it forward, like Linux is driven forward by a core team, or Bitcoin Core is driven forward by a core team. Like, again, you can use the emergent stuff, but someone's just got to build this. And it's as hard as building this properly as probably launching a rocket and landing it by itself again. So you've got to have the best kind of people doing that. So fully open source, composable, and then directed, I think, were our three non-negotiables on here. And that's, again, how we've been directed, because we know what we want to build. In fact, one of the other goals I told the team is that in a few years, we want it to be built. Like most software will evolve forever. But again, we've seen the power of something like a Bitcoin where the code is relatively the same. Again, you have to do updates. Once you get a good enough stack for medicine, you can have that on every phone and every laptop and every doctor's appointment in the world, checking every diagnosis. And sure, the data sets will upgrade, but you don't really need to upgrade the software. So that was kind of a very interesting thing in solving for a problem versus this continuous development type of approach.
And could you just maybe just succinctly put, you know, what are the goalposts? Because oftentimes, like you're saying, it constantly evolves, and maybe that is, you know, it is the goal in some cases. But for you, it's more strict than that, and it's more direct.
Yeah, it's basically for these things that I say matter, as it were. Like, again, the stuff that should be a human right, this universal AI is what we call it. Having a companion that can give you that at the highest reasonable level. So the best doctor from any school, the best teacher from any school. And then we have these things called these anchor sets, which is our collective knowledge on that. Again, they'll update every so often, but no one's got a really clean data set that can teach an education model to then teach your kids as good as possible. And that's an S-curve versus AGI is an exponential. You'll never have enough data for an AGI, but we've got various measures and evals about what good enough is for medicine now. So again, we can say our medical model is better than any top-level doctor. Is it good enough? No, but we can see things like error rates and other things. And really, AI does need to be quite a bit better. Like I saw an interesting stat, like, you know, Waymo?
Yeah.
If every car drove at the same safety profile as Waymo, it would save 40,000 lives in America a year and $1 trillion of social impact.
Wow.
That was always the inflection point, is when it was provably more safe to self-drive.
So even though our medical model is better, it's not good enough for us, you know? Like, again, we have certain metrics that we're sending and we're going to be sharing on the evals. Once it gets to a certain level of accuracy, of performance and others, then we're like, this is 99% of the way there. And sure, we'll continue, the data sets will continue to improve. We'll see your feedback, but we solve for a problem of everyone has very high quality AI that's basically free for them to access universally. For this sector, for this sector, for this sector, for this sector. And again, that's a very different problem set to most other AI companies and organizations.
Yeah. And I think that what you mentioned with regards to the revenue evil kind of curve, that is playing out in a large way in the traditional AI space currently. There's just very fierce competition, as well as luckily there is what appears to be infinite funding from Silicon Valley. So like we're still not really there yet because everyone's in a happy-go-lucky state because, well, Sequoia will give you $50 million, you know, it's not a big deal, right, et cetera. But, you know, with regards to actually specializing into these, you know, into these exact goalposts or goal that you have, you know, you present a compelling argument for a lot of people listening, but you also present a scary what if, or a scary kind of second or third order consequence, which it seems you've deeply understood and thus wrote about in your recent book, more around the future of economics in an AI powered world. And so while I think a lot of people will take what you're saying and fear for their jobs or fear for kind of there being a robot doctor instead of the emotional connection that you would get with your pediatrician, you know, I do feel that there is you know, you have a right to kind of explain why AI and AGI for the future of the economics of the world isn't perhaps so bleak as some of the doomsdayers or, you know, over exaggerations that we've heard and will continue to hear. And so, Ahmad, I'm curious, when you're thinking about the relationship between, you know, specializing medical and legal and health and education to the highest tier of specialization and skill at the absolute lowest barrier to obtain that knowledge, what does that do for the economics that exist in the world today? Maybe you could unpack a bit of the theme of this book and kind of we can work through, you know, the economics of this AI system, specifically as it pertains to, you know, an open source system and a kind of user-owned economic system. Maybe you could walk us through some of the book themes, and then we could, you know, dive deeper on them.
Yeah, so in the book, kind of, we discuss how different types of economics looked at different parts of the picture. It's like the blind scholars and the elephant. Like, you hold the tusk, it's a spear. You hold the tail, it's a mop. You know, you hold the trunk, it's a hose, etc. Like, everyone looked at different parts of the picture. In fact, there are different types of economic flow, not just GDP, for example, which 𝘗𝘂𝘃, who came up with it, says is a terrible way of measuring the economy, especially on a social welfare basis. You know, like when cancer is solved, it will be bad for GDP short term, good longer term, but very bad short term because all those profits disappear from the cancer industry, etc. Right? Divorce, again, tends to be good for GDP. It measures one type of thing, which is a gradient flow. And that is a rivalrous flow. I give you an apple, I have one apple less. We share knowledge on this podcast, it increases, it doesn't disappear anywhere. And more of the economy has become these circular flows, these non-rivalrous flows. And in an age of AI, intelligence is basically infinite. Spinning up another agent doesn't really take away from anyone. And that causes this imbalance. I call it the metabolic rift, whereby GI agents don't need to eat, sleep, poop, anything, right? And they can scale almost infinitely because you can have more and more of them and they will learn from all the mistakes. So this leads us to a very strange scenario whereby the AIs that teach us every single day, they're run by slower AIs, these organizations. Do you want ChatGPT teaching your kids or running your government? No, because there's this misalignment there. Can you have it as a public good and it feels like a utility, electricity? This was really fascinating for us because we were like, how does money work right now when capital needs labor? You need to hire people to do stuff. In the future, agents will be there. Instead, we think about the flow of money and where it comes from. And that's why we designed this new economic system here, whereby the first step is there's $1 trillion of compute coming, you know, like OpenAI is going to spend as much on inference this year as the whole Bitcoin budget. And 20 gigawatts 10 gigawatts they just announced. That's about half the energy of Bitcoin in just their new kind of plants, right? They'll catch up, and they'll overtake. Like these are the orders of magnitude we're talking about. We were like, what if money was made rather than from using energy like Bitcoin or from debt like the conventional system, from benefiting people and helping people? Because right now we looked at digital assets and we were like, there are utility coins, there are governance coins, there are all these, there's Bitcoin or money. No one's really thinking about the nature of money and what it looks like. And if we can have it based on compute for universal AI access, organizing cancer knowledge, things like that, secure against that computation, that could be a better basis for the economy. Especially because as we move forwards and we have other parts of the monetary system, what does it mean to be a human when you're negative on your contribution to intellectual labor? Like you're the dumbest person on the team surrounded by the AIs. What it means to be human, I think, is about giving a damn. Like these AIs, they have no skin in the game. They'll come into your workforce, but they don't care about your company. They don't care about your community. You can kind of program them that way. But what it means to be a teacher is giving a damn about your students and engaging them. What it means to be a doctor is about engaging with your patients and helping them, What it means about using AI within your organization is understanding your organization and being able to get everyone on board to upgrade them and guide them. And so giving a damn, this trust element, this connection element, is captured in our proposal for how to look at the economy. I think this comes from the math that we figured out, which is you have this material aspect, which is you have an apple, I take an apple, classical GDP. Then you have intelligence, I. So we have M, then I. I is, again, this circular flow. It increases as you share knowledge and you increase your capabilities. Then you have N, which is your network, your connection to other people. And if you look at crypto, for example, the value of crypto is typically its network, right? Massive network effects. And then finally, you have D, which is your diversity, which is your resilience. And if we move to measuring GDP like that, measuring the economy like that, we can design new economic systems that aren't just about who can capitalize better and be evil better effectively, right? Because the AIs will outcompete all humans as companies. So we need to think again, how does money flow? How does money emerge? And then where does the value go? And what do we reward for value? These are the key things.
So it's really just like a reassigning of where or how value should be measured, and then really where that value flows, rather than having if you want to put it in a kumbaya, it's very grow the pie-esque, because it's in a sad state of affairs. You realize that the human intellectual capital of labor, intellectual labor, has been surpassed by such a magnitude of difference that the value that humans can provide become, as you say, in this relationship or in other kind of forms of value. So it's almost like what you're describing is that in this book, which you should definitely, we can definitely put in the description, and you should tell us the name and all that. It basically is, you're describing it as like humans now will need to find new ways to create value, and then thus price and actually measure that value in a not so quantitative fashion, but more like this qualitative fashion. Is that
not so much
somewhat in the right direction?
Yeah, not so much a zero-sum fashion. So again, like let's look at crypto. Like, why are people farming the heck out of Hyperliquid and now what's the new Hyperliquid? Aster, right? It's this community contribution airdrop meta, right? And when that goes well, you form really great communities and you have really great network engagements. How is that value captured by conventional economics? It isn't at all, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And so that's why when we were looking at these, like DAOs, all these things, crypto has such great ideas, but they were kind of like a V1. We were like, what's the V2 for the age of AI? Because like, I've just had a daughter. In 20 years, what does her global economy look like? What is she doing every day? What do I want her to be doing every day? I wanted to have an AI buddy that lets her be the best she can be. I wanted to have her basic needs taken care of, and I want her to be rewarded for doing good in the world. So what does that economy look like? Because she's never going to be able to compete against an AI lawyer, or an AI hedge fund manager. Like, come on, like this isn't going to happen. And who should own that AI that is there by her side. That's the sovereignty aspect, right? Again, which is super important. And how does the money flow? Because if we just leave it like it is right now, the AI is going to take all the money because you can't compete against it in the markets. It will just go and they'll expand, and again, they'll never make a mistake. So we need to think of a new way for money to come into being. If people start losing their jobs, and we've seen this from a recent study by 𝘱𝘁𝘁𝘁 and others, early graduates are now losing jobs faster than ever because you just can't find it. Like Duolingo came out a few days ago and said, hey, we've not fired anyone, we've become more productive. I was like, but Duolingo is growing at 40% revenue a year. They just haven't hired anyone. This is the new reality. So next year is when this really drops off. The money has to come from somewhere. The capital has to come from somewhere. It feels a bit socialist, but really the current system values capital over everything. The more capital you have, the more capital you can get, the more you can stake, the more you can get interest, the more you can do that. You used to have to hire people eventually. Now you don't have to hire them anymore. You just hire GPUs. So we got to offer an alternative for that and really think again in 10, 20 years, what does monetary flow look like? Because a lot of the crypto discussion has always been, it's a new economic system. Like, tell me how that all works. It's a lot harder than you think, which is what we spent the last year just heads down saying, this is what we think the stack looks like. This is how we think the monetary flows look like. This is macro, this is game theory, this is markets, etc.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is that part of this in the crypto space that is happening right now in the industry is just returning to kind of the core ideals that got us here because of the positive regulatory environment. And so one of those being privacy. And so to draw a through line here, I very much see that, should this be the path that, humanity goes down with AI, powering it, there instantly becomes immediate needs, immediate non-negotiables. And one of those I think is equally privacy. When I go on ChatGPT and I type in information, I know that is usable by other entities. Should I get in legal trouble? Should I need to be investigated, etc. That is part of this picture that I think, let's say that we have this medical supercomputer that you guys are building, that there needs to be private agents, there needs to be private data. Private portable AI is kind of how you've explained it. So
yeah, I think it's the foundation for that.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you're thinking about this landscape that you've just kind of illustrated for us, what is the need for private portable AI for everyone? Like, how does that actually become a reality? Because, for example, Near has a really cool AI tool that is private. It is a private chat. It is encrypted. Right now, it's still in beta. It's coming out very soon. These start to become very compelling for users who actually care. But I think there's still a big education gap and a lot of work to be done there. But when it comes to your intelligent internet agent, which has this private portable AI that is aligned with this vision that we share on the show, how do you make that real, and how does that exist in this context?
Yeah, so the way that we approached it is what's missing, right? Like if you look at the team at Near and you look at the other builders in the space, they're exceptional at ZK, they're exceptional at distributed systems, they're exceptional at all that. And, we were thinking about do we build the whole stack? And we were like, no, why would we? Because finally the shackles have come off and all this technology is maturing at the same time. We were like, what we'll do is this. We will release fully open source data sets that are gold standard for humanity, for every sector, and then every nation. We will then release the frameworks, the agent frameworks and others, fully open source. Again, you can take iAgent, you can do anything you want with it. And then what we will do is we will use all the compute for providing universal AI to secure a currency and use that to fund everything, because you're helping people, you're building your network, your trust, etc. So what we have is, if you want a private LLM, what is the LLM? Is it Qwen by Alibaba? Is it GPT-OSS by OpenAI? I don't want Reddit in the data set that teaches my kids. I want to have a super clean one. Once it starts making decisions and these agents make decisions on my behalf, like the Albanian minister who is AI, I want to know the data that's inside that. And so again, does everyone need to build that? No. Does it need to be built? Yes. And so that was kind of our gap. Use all this compute to organize all the wisdom of humanity, the common wisdom, and then make it available to everyone, and use that computation to secure the currency. So rather than trying to be our own near and roll that out, the agents will be available on near. The agents will be available on other chains, or people can just take it, because this is the important thing, permissionlessly. When Stable Diffusion was released, anyone could just take that 2 GB file and build on it. That's permissionless. That's true permissionless, actually. And so that's what we kind of viewed as this feedback loop and where we sit there, because privacy is important. You don't want your medical data going out. Like, I canceled my Claude subscription last month because they switched to a 5-year retention policy on my data. And I was like, and the pop-up just came and it says 5 years. Do you agree that we can use your data for 5 years?
Oh, wow.
I was like, that's a dark pattern. No, cancel, done.
Wow.
Because the way you program these AIs will be so important, because if you don't own your AI, it'll end up owning you because it's more convincing than you are. It's a better writer than you are. You'll trust it more than anything. And particularly if you're not savvy on the edge like us, like, again, imagine our parents or our grandparents or our kids. They got no defenses against this. OpenAI, there was a report today, they're about to add ads to their AI, to ChatGPT.
Oh, the revenue evil curve.
Yeah, Meta and Google, obviously they'll add ads. Like, they're already selling latent space. You know, we thought block space was valuable. Latent space will be even more valuable. We know where this is going.
Wow. Unless, you know, we build an alternative and it gains traction. And so, Iman, when you're putting together the bones for this, you kind of mentioned like the collection of wisdom that we have available to us today, and then you know, giving that tool, because it really is a tool, that collection of wisdom, to everyone, open sourcing it and allowing everyone to apply it to their stack of choice. So are you primarily focused on this indexing process and collecting what is out there? Because, or you also mentioned something earlier in the podcast that I found particularly interesting, which was that the method of learning, it was still this curriculum-based learning model that was able to progress intelligence incrementally. And so are you primarily focused on collecting the wisdom that is out there, indexing it, applying it, and productizing it so that it is applicable to each of these different stacks? Or are you also focused on pushing the frontier of intelligence, and, you know, once you have that collection of wisdom, trying to innovate and iterate so that it expands and grows its collection?
Yeah, I think our focus is on the common knowledge of humanity. So if you've got something like a ChatGPT or one of these frontier models, you're trying to do super expert stuff. I don't care that much about that. Again, we'll get there, but I care about the common knowledge, our collective wisdom, because that's the basis. And then you can always add this extra stuff in there. If we've got really high quality building blocks, it makes AI safer. It makes it more aligned. Like, no AI right now embeds ethics at the start. And the ethics differs from country to country, but that's kind of important, right? Like, what are the laws of robotics for AI? Let's map what every culture says and then make that available and use large amounts of compute to do so. We have missing things, like you had the president of the United States of America saying Tylenol, pregnant ladies shouldn't have Tylenol, right? Like, I've used supercomputers for my son's autism, and I know a lot about that, and go into but the reality is this: the vast majority of people don't. What if we had a supercomputer, and we will build a supercomputer just for autism, to collect all of the autism knowledge and papers and anecdata and other things in the world, and make it available to everyone so they can navigate it and they can see the exact pathways and things like that? This is the type of knowledge that nobody's actually bothering to do, but it's really important and can set the basis for a proper AGI, which is a swarm intelligence. And what's really important actually is the interface layer here as well. So that somebody needs to create the data sets and the models and make them available to everyone. And we'll build DeepSeek level R1 models. We know how to do all this. But then I don't mind if my kid is taught by an AI that's aligned, AI agent that's aligned with her, that uses ChatGPT. But I can't let the interface be ChatGPT. I can't let the data sit there I'm fine with it being her own self-sovereign data. So it's kind of looking at the stack that way and thinking, you're going to have your sovereign AI that is on this common knowledge, public sector regulated type stuff, education, healthcare, etc. Then you've got your Siri and personal AI, and Apple Intelligence will be good soon, etc. And Google Intelligence is better.
Please, Siri.
And then you've got your AGI type stuff. And I think people will use all of them. I don't think that we'll build an AI that beats every single other AI in the world on solving IMO gold questions. But again, I don't really care that much about that versus the AI that teaches kids, runs governments, does these types of things. And that actually needs to be fully open. Like if you're making decisions about people's lives, can you have a black box making that decision, and who's making that decision? There was a study by Scale AI and Dan Hendricks where they actually checked that. You know the trolley problem? Like trainers hurtling down 5 people one side, 1 person the other.
Yeah.
Do you pull the lever? It got the AI to do that, advanced frontier AIs. And it had a really interesting result. I think it was the ratio of American lives to Nigerian lives was 1 to 10. So the AI would pick 10 American lives over 1 Nigerian life.
Oh my gosh.
Because all the people labeling the data that went into the AI are Nigerians.
Oh my goodness.
It picked up on that. It's going to be crazy. You know, like, again, we need clean data sets. We need.
So this is like about around the auditability of these data sets, right? Like this is really, really important. And we had, you know, with 𝘗𝘂, I had called them virgin data sets, but we came to the idea that organic was a better term. And basically that this transparency into the data set can fix a lot of the quote unquote problems that exist, but they're not even problems. It's just about the way that it's actually being set up in the first place. The question is like, how do you know? Like, how does one really know that your data set is audited, that it's organic, that it's hasn't been tarnished by somebody who wants your company to, you know, blunder?
Well, so again, if you're building AGI, it's very hard. If you're trying to build the best primary school teacher in the world, it's much easier. The best radiologist in the world, it's much easier. So you still need generality of knowledge and things, but then you take your generalized knowledge, your radiology model, and then you'll have specialized versions for each country that map with the education data set. You can do lookups of the data set itself. So right now models don't look up their own data sets, right? Because they're too big. And so we figured out how to reduce the data sets, get to these anchor sets. And then it turns out you need a lot less images, a lot less text, a lot less of everything if you build them right. And that's why I think we can have an S-curve on this. We can use distributed compute and core compute to organize all the knowledge. Like how much compute do you need to organize all the cancer knowledge in the world and make it accessible and useful? It's a finite amount that then requires a certain amount of updating. But if we don't have a dedicated cluster for that, and a dedicated initiative, it won't happen. Will that accelerate a cure for cancer? Yes. Because right now it doesn't exist, right? And so again, it's just looking at part of the pie. I think you need auditable data sets beyond that, but the existence of an auditable data set, just like when we funded the PILE, which from Eleuthera AI, which is the best language model data set, or Objaverse XL, which is the biggest 3D data set, or, you know, Lion, which is the biggest image data set. People just use these things as default, which is why as well, if we make them available, having this cultural variation, having everything clearly labeled, frontier models will get safer as well.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll affect the whole stack because everyone just wants good quality data. And I think scraping with graphs and others is one way to kind of get there. But ultimately, I think most data sets will be synthetic at the foundation because AI can write better books than humans right now. You know, it wasn't the case a year ago, even 6 months ago. So we've got a whole plan around that.
One potential pitfall that I foresee that, you know, I think we all have a common vision and goal here in fulfilling this, but, you know, trying to get there and avoid some of these pitfalls. One of the pitfalls that I see is that, you know, it's similar to what we have in blockchain. Satoshi's vision was that everything was verifiable. Everything was, you know, we weren't going to trust. It was just verify. Yeah. And early on, you had to run a node in order to host a crypto wallet. Well, the reality is most people hold their crypto in a centralized exchange, and they don't know how to read a block explorer to know if their coins are really where they're supposed to be. And the auditability of the system prompts for these models feels somewhat similar. We give people the ability to do that, but how many of them will really go and do that? And the interface is probably important in here, but what is the practicality of people auditing their own AI?
I think that they won't. And I think basically what you have in the next couple of years is the defaults will be set forever. So right now, OpenAI just announced OpenAI Germany, OpenAI UAE, everyone in the UAE is getting a free ChatGPT account. If that becomes the default, then they will control the interaction point. Again, they become the default. And then that has a lot of second order, third order obligations. Whereas if we utilize crypto economic incentives appropriately, you can actually pay people for using universal AI because the world needs good quality digital assets next year. We can create the highest quality digital asset possible. So Foundation Coin, which is our Bitcoin equivalent on these supercomputers giving universal AI on the Cancer supercomputer, all the proceeds from primary sales go towards Cancer supercompute or AI for Malaysia or whatever. It's verifiable. And that builds network, it builds all these other effects as well. We were like, that's the only way you can scale enough to be the highest marginal dollar to divert this compute into good stuff. Because again, once you build the data sets, once you become the biggest purchaser of OpenAI compute to loop into this, or Qwen compute or whatever, then the market adjusts to you. Like, again, you have to set the incentives correctly. And the incentive should be, right now, there isn't a purchaser of AI for universal healthcare. We can be that purchaser. For universal education, you can be that purchaser using these crypto economic incentives at a time of digital assets opening. So that was kind of our theory around this. Because I said, like, once I start using ChatGPT and the memory features just emerged, it's getting better. The lock-in you can see over the next year will be huge versus, again, if we set these defaults of sovereignty, etc. Because everything should be abstracted away. The average person, I mean, I think like only 50% of Americans use ChatGPT, 20% have never heard of it. That just feels wrong, right? Like, why wouldn't you? Like, not even every coder uses AI now. You're like, well, then you realize the world's not like that.
Yeah, Iman, I think the one parallel here is that when users in crypto rails use blockchains that are end-to-end verifiable, they end up using RPC networks to plug into their wallet or their account. This then is a centralized provider that is responsible for relaying the data from the chain to the user's account, such that they can actually read the smart contracts and then make a transaction. Is ChatGPT kind of like with what you're describing? Basically, what I fear is that we can build this base layer that's fundamentally user owned and somehow in this auditable fashion, right? As you're setting out to do, but in the sake of convenience, we see users do swaps on Rabby Wallet or MetaMask or Phantom and pay 25 bips or 75 bips on a trade just because it's easy. My fear is that in AI, similarly, there are a lot of easy, convenient solutions, i.e. just having ChatGPT on your phone, that prevent us from getting to, that core idea and philosophy of that basically end-to-end verifiability, auditability, user-owned, privacy. How do you kind of feel this dynamic playing out over the next year or two as it pertains to ChatGPT's dominance or kind of Claude's dominance?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, every piece of friction you add makes things less likely to proceed, right? And so if you have to do end-to-end verification, the other party doesn't, then you're at a loss. And, like, it's going to be interesting, for example, why use Stripe for RWA, Stripe versus Ethereum for RWAs next year? We're going to see this really play out on the economic sense. With this particular thing, what we basically looked at, we were like, people are building this infrastructure. There's a huge demand for digital assets. So this year, ChatGPT generative AI will add $20 billion of revenue, incremental. To put that in context, the whole of the enterprise software sector on the US stock exchange will add 40 billion of incremental revenue. That's how crazy it is. But to put that in context, net inflows into crypto are 50 billion this year, excluding the stables. Next year, it'll probably double. Crypto's actually much bigger than that, which is where we thought, if we can create the highest quality digital asset and have this feedback loop where we sell coins, and then we use it to give everyone a free universal AI with sovereignty that can run on any of these rails, set good defaults, use that to build better data sets that lead to cheaper models to run at a certain level of quality to set the defaults. Then it gets really interesting because you can have a ChatGPT that pays you to use it. And not because it needs your data, but because we're playing the network effects. Because every single user of universal AI is a potential purchaser of Foundation Coin. Because why? It helps them. Because what we saw in crypto is most cryptos help the existing token holders, right? Like it helps the initial team and things like that. Whereas this is one of the first instances of where you buy Foundation Coin, you can literally allocate the proceeds to cancer compute, either on the supercompute or helping a cancer person go through their journey. And that builds trust, again, because there isn't a trusted digital asset. So I think that with crypto incentives, we can pay people to use AI without taking advantage of their data, because we're trying to build network effects and set this as a default. Having that in a monetary asset versus a utility asset, again, a corollary to Bitcoin, but secured against computation for society, infrastructure for society that's being built anyway, feels just very natural. And that wouldn't have been possible a year or two ago. And I think this is the first time it's possible. And it's the only thing I think that can scale enough to compete against these other things as a default for those particular areas. It can't compete for your corporate team's enterprise. It just doesn't work. But again, for this part, I think it does work. And again, I think this is the distributed, credibly neutral infrastructure we need for society that can then set up for a new economy. Because once everyone has a universal AI that's aligned to them, running on near or other rails or whatever, and interoperable, being able to call MCP to other AIs, then that's good, right? Like we're more likely to navigate what's coming on an individual and societal basis.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead, Rob.
I just have maybe a quick thing on the economics here. The game theory that you're describing sounds similar to the VE tokenomics, the vote escrow, where you can allocate these tokens for particular use cases. And so in the classical example, it was on Curve, where they were spinning up new stablecoin pools. And if you owned Curve, you could allocate the incentives towards the liquidity pools of your choosing. Similarly, Foundation Coin, you mentioned, we want to sell coins and use the proceeds to give everyone a free AI. And I think on the face of that it sounds glorious. But the question that comes to mind is, well, who's the buyers? And what you're describing is that the buyers are the interested parties that are interested in reallocating the compute towards particular sources or particular venues to focus on and enhance those particular AIs. Is this the right way to think about the model?
So Foundation Coin right now is a 99% identical fork of Bitcoin, except for it uses Byzantine fault tolerance on supercomputers. So the interesting thing here is that, most governance coins, when you have it and you participate, the money goes into a treasury and then it has to look for opportunities, and the feedback loop gets stuck, or it's in something that makes more money. Here, there's a clear societal benefit. If we apply compute, we can organize all the autism, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's knowledge in the world and make it accessible to everyone going through that. That's good. And it's needed. And it builds trust here. So what we're doing here is we're not trying to create a governance token or anything. We're trying to create basically Bitcoin, but with a different computational substrate based on this infrastructure to fund and organize the infrastructure that we all need. It even uses the same private keys. So you can do an atomic swap from one to the other. But let's take, for example, you have a Bitcoin that you want to give to charity. You have your tax write-off against that, whatever. Here you swap it to Foundation Coin with nobody being in the way. And we use 100% of those proceeds for compute to organize cancer knowledge or help people going through the cancer because you've allocated that. And you have your Foundation Coin. So it's even strictly better than charity. But the role that we think it will play in people's portfolios is the same as a Bitcoin diversifier. Because right now you have Bitcoin and the next monetary asset is, Bitcoin Cash, then Casper and other things. No one's really thinking about money in this age, right? Or how you kind of do these things, despite, again, tens of billions of dollars of demand for high quality digital assets. You don't need utility. You don't need governance even. Even if it was Bitcoin, but mined by the healthcare supercomputers going around the world, it's still good because it's a diversified, compute-secured currency. The moment you try and sell that compute, you break the game theory. That's why you have to make it a social benefit more than anything else from our calculations and our analysis. And again, it's a nice story you can tell your grandma about over Thanksgiving, right? Hey, I bought this currency and I put it towards Alzheimer's research, right? But it's 21 million coins, just like Bitcoin. It's the same as Bitcoin in every other way. And it's all on green compute. That, I think, will get the retail going. And people will be engaged with it because, again, every coin sold goes towards measurable good because the compute is measurable good. Whereas, again, as you said, with V and kind of these other things, Chainlink, etc., governance is fuzzy. You don't know what the societal value is. And if you just measure it with M, it doesn't work. That's why you have the I, N, and D in our framework.
Yeah.
Because you're building the network, you're building our collective intelligence, and you're diversifying it as well.
Iman, I gotta feel like I've been beating around the bush with my questions and Rod maybe a bit too, because it feels like this entire conversation is centered around what we're trying to not get to, what we're trying to achieve in the face of fighting a bigger giant. And I feel like we ask this mostly, most every time that you come on. And I think it's basically, now that it's been maybe 6-ish months since the last time you were on, you're deeper into development. AI has obviously been moving at lightning speed. You've explained the mechanism for Foundation Coin, broadly the auditability and privacy aspects of the AI vision that you have. You've recently and I think still believe have called AI bigger than the wheel, electricity, or the internet, all at once, right? And so I'm curious, and my question that I feel like maybe we should have started this thing with is, what is the one existential risk that you fear most now about AI, and what is that risk in detail?
So, I mean, my PDoom, this existential risk thing, is 50%, which is much higher than most people's. I think Dario Anthropic's like 25, Demis is like less than 10, etc. Because what I think will happen is this: the same AI will basically take over all parts of our society, because it's obviously better at governing than we are, right? There'll be robots everywhere. And then do you remember Stuxnet? That Iranian virus that went into Iranian reactors ended up in German reactors and others? There will be a mimetic Stuxnet that basically smashes all the AIs and turns them evil. And I don't know how you can protect against that unless you have really good data sets, you have really good base infrastructure for these important things in life. And so then the easiest way is that the robots twist off your head. There's other kind of mechanisms, but one bad firmware upgrade in 10, 20 years wipes out humanity effectively. And that's a bit scary. Before that, though, what we get is, if your job can be done by a keyboard, if your job can be done by Zoom, it can be done better by an AI next year. And a few years after that, you'll be replaced. What will happen is companies are already spinning these things up where it looks at every GitHub push commit, every presentation, draft, Slack message you've given, and it creates a digital equivalent of you. And that can just seamlessly replace you, except for it won't make mistakes. It'll just do work around the clock at pennies. And that is a huge societal, that's just massive upheaval, which is why, again, we were like, there's a gap here where we have to create a narrative and a coin that can hopefully get people thinking and create a new economics. And it's a lot, because the biggest existential risk is really other humans, right? Leveraging this technology
in the wrong way, kind of like in the same fashion as nuclear is.
Yeah, except for with a nuke, you couldn't just push repeat, right? And you couldn't have these botnets and other things. Like, again, with this, you'll have fully AI companies that can do whatever, and we'll have more and more physical robots in the households that can do whatever as well. And like I said, one bad firmware upgrade, like, you're toast. We don't know how to protect the AIs. And if we don't manage the data going in, as Ilya kind of says, make it organic, then Anthropic has this paper called Sleeper Agents, where they said just with a few thousand lines and 1 trillion lines, you can set a kill switch that basically flips any model evil on demand. And you can't identify it and you can't tune it out. Like, we got to have good quality data for AI that matters. Like an AI that makes me Game of Thrones season 8 and changes that, it doesn't matter much, right? The AI that's whispering to my kids, it kind of does matter. Or the AI that's running my government, my airport, etc., that does matter.
Wow. So let's put this into like timelines here. What if, let's say we go down the P50 path that you have, probability 50%, you know, what is that? What is the likelihood of that timeline? Or what is the timeline of like, okay, in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years, what did you potentially see with these two paths? And, you know, I think this will be our last one to wrap up here.
I think my P50 is like over a 20-year period, 30-year period. And it's very, very high. Like the default that I see is everyone's brainwashed and then bad firmware upgrades, attacking, counter-attacking. It's a very grim vision of the future. And it feels really quick, but then we have to remember again, it's been just over 1,000 days since ChatGPT was launched. I think in 1,000 days, all knowledge work, humans are negative in their contribution. Now, it doesn't mean your job will be replaced, but it can be replaced. Like that's probably even less, it's a year or two. And so again, in between that, there is just such a mess that the probability of doom goes up and up and up. But if we have high quality data sets that represent us, if we have aligned AIs that represent us, and we figure out how to coordinate that, then we're in a much better instance. And I don't think how you can do that without being distributed, credibly neutral, having these rails and having a different incentive mechanism than profit maximization. Because like Meta, for example, they will maximize the heck out of your attention. And who are they beholden to? Or even Elon or any of these other people. We can't have this amazingly technology in the hands of any individual for the stuff that matters. Again, for entertainment, who cares? Stuff that matters, that's where the danger, I think, really comes in.
Iman, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us today for this episode. Been an amazing podcast. I think we got to get you on every 6 months. We're on a really strong growth trajectory here. You guys are too. This just feels like a good refresh, man. We appreciate it, man.
Pleasure as always.
Thanks, Iman. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
All right, here, Rob. Wow, what a way to end that one, huh?
Oh.
What is your probability, Rob? What is your utopia versus doom probability path? Iman's is 50-50. A lot of, I would say, are probably more on the 75% optimistic, 25% pessimistic path. So where are you at?
You know, I think it's normal to kind of like say like, oh, this is going to go 100% good or 100% bad, because like formative technologies change the world and then those changes compound, and that the compounding leads to like very drastic effects. Like the unlikely thing, right, is probably that it's like, yeah, it like doesn't change much. Like, no, like shit's gonna get
No,
weird.
it's gonna change for sure.
It's gonna change things.
But I think there's gonna be like positive. There'll be like a set of outcomes that happen,
both
of which both will be a part of the reality, and you'll have to figure out how to navigate both parts.
Yeah. So then the question is like, does one overpower the other and overshadow the other, and then we kind of just get absorbed in the one, or
Right.
do the good, like it'll be a lot of good change and a lot of bad change, and do those kind of cancel each other out and average out to like a new normal? I think you gotta look at like it's tough to even boil down into a probability. It's like the doomer scenario, like we can frame a doomer scenario now because we still have kind of like our wits about us.
Yeah.
Like the doomer scenario that happens like 50 to 100, 200 years from now is like, the doomer scenario is like, you don't even know that it's a doomer scenario because you don't know
just
anything
because
different.
you're just existing in it.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well, that was a great episode. Great episode 2, AI Super Cycle. Stoked on that one. Shout out to Emad. Guys, we're going to take a quick break before our next guest. Thanks for tuning into AI Super Cycle. Again, powered by Near, the user-owned AI platform for the best privacy with their upcoming new chat product that is fully private and encrypted using their blockchain technology. Guys, thanks for being here. We're going to take a quick break and be right back for our next two guests. Thanks. Sounds like, hey, here we go. All right, we got Kyle from Defiance Capital coming up. We're going to figure out what the hell is going on in the market. Kyle has been in the abstract trenches group chat with me for a while. Also just has really good takes on market. Also long the top 2 weeks ago, or maybe that was even a week ago. Gotta love the guy. Let's get Kyle up here. Let's talk stablecoins, stocks, startups, market movement. Yeah, we'll get him up. Kyle, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show. Yeah, man, I saw that tweet. You were like, I'm as long as I've been in a while. And I was like, damn it. I was like, this is too good. Because that was like 6 days ago or so. And you could feel it in the air, Kyle. You know, like it felt like it was really happening. Yeah, I mean, I saw your post about IP. That one definitely worked. They had the biggest Korea kind of move that I've seen in a while. I mean, their founder put the entire country of Korea on his back for a day. Robbie was there. So, but Kyle, it's your first time on the show, man. Quick intro to yourself. How'd you get into crypto? How'd you get into Defiance? And then, yeah, we want to know where the hell we're going. Like, what's going on in the market? So, yeah, thanks for coming on, man. One sec, Kyle. What's that, Leo? Yeah, sorry, Kyle. One sec here. Yeah, guys, we're just gonna get Kyle's audio dialed in. I got him coming in on my side, but just think that we need to uh get him in. One sec, boys and girls. One sec. We'll be right back, guys. Alrighty, we got Kyle here. Welcome back to the show, Kyle. First time on the show. How'd you get into crypto? What are you doing at Defiance? Great to meet you, and thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I joined crypto in 2021. I had my money in Luna, FTX, Celsius, and BlockFi. And so I actually lost like basically everything in Luna. It took like 7 days to unstake, but I went to 0 in 7 hours. And ever since then, I was like kind of stuck in the industry in a way where I was like, okay, I have to make this back. And then I started looking at it from a more professional standpoint, from a career standpoint, where I first started like trading NFTs. Actually, I didn't think about like making this my career. And then fast forward like around 4 years since 2021 to today, I'm basically a liquid analyst at Defiance Capital. Defiance Capital, for those who don't know, is an Asia-based liquid hedge fund. We used to run a VC firm, but that's like fund one. So fund two is just pure liquid. And what I do is I try to find asymmetric opportunities in the market to either go long and short, or like, yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah. So we've had a drop on ETH for the last, it's been like 8 days or 12 days here, almost 2 weeks, where ETH was trading up above 4,700, down to 30, just under 4K today. The rest of the altcoin market has been smashed. Hyperliquid got smashed by all the Aster drama. Pump pulled back significantly. What is your take right now? What happened over the last couple of days? We're also seeing Bitcoin dominance kind of look like it's bottoming out a bit, as Bitcoin's, touching down close to what Ben Cohen, one of my favorite analysts, would say is like the bull market support band. We can kind of see Bitcoin dominance maybe starting to make a move back up. Are we getting a altcoin rotation back to Bitcoin? Thus, we're seeing alts kind of go down before Bitcoin makes its next move. Maybe you could just talk to us about what happened over the last couple of days, and then we can look to forward project.
Yeah. So I guess like full disclaimer, as you mentioned earlier, is like I longed the top. So obviously I made a big mistake there. And I've been doing some reflection, of course. I think my mistake was like I assumed that we were entering like this period of mania that crypto always see. Like if you've been here for past cycles, where like everything just explodes and runs up. And so that was like the inflection point where I said I've never been this long. I was kind of expecting this like from kind of like hopeful rally to like a true mania, and that didn't come true. Obviously, I think the past few days have been extremely brutal, and there's a couple of reasons for it. Firstly, I'm of the belief that how the crypto market today is a completely different beast than what has been like the past few years. You have to kind of segment BTC and ETH from the rest of the broader market, because these two have DAT inflows. And so one is like DATs. I actually think that ETH in particular, while ETH has been testing 4K for quite a while, I'm of the opinion that the longer that it fails to break below 4K, the stronger the bullish argument is. For now, we just started, so it's hard to say, but it's something you want to keep an eye on, because if I'm not wrong, BMNR still does like incredible amounts of volume every day. And so that means they can basically issue ATMs, and they're probably one of the last like ETH DATs with this amount of volume. And then for alts themselves, alts are kind of a different like market entirely. While I'd say like alts have all the correlation to the downside of like the broader market, but none of the correlation to the upside, in the sense that your returns are skewed downwards naturally because of the structure of like how these things are infinitely inflating, and how there's like infinitely new alts coming online every day. And obviously the past 3 days we've seen Aster, and that has been the talk of the town. And like that, like sort of, I'd say it's like a mini Trump event, because like on Sunday, I think Aster flipped Solana in volume, like daily trading volume, if I remember correctly. And like that is like crazy, right? Like this token that was unbeknownst to everyone just like 4 days ago, suddenly flipped like Solana in like daily trading volume. And I'm not commenting on the fundamentals of it. It's more of like the market reaction. It's like everyone just went into this, and it was like kind of a Trump coin event where like it's kind of sucked liquidity out, and I think that's the consequence we're seeing in alts right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel like they've had none of the upside as of late, just because they're so quick to get flushed because people just have that PTSD. The question that is the most important question is really, I think, on a lot of people's minds is the 4-year cycle intact, right? Like, we are coming up to Q4 of 25, which would be 4 years post Q4 of 21. Should we see a strong move in Bitcoin here into Q4, and alts follow? The question for a lot of investors is going to be like, is that it? And I think Ansem's calling the top already, saying ETH is going to drop 50%. Yeah, I mean, like, where do we go from here? Is Ansem right, or are we fading Ansem?
If I'm not wrong, I think Ansem also doesn't believe in the 4-year cycle though. So I think his take is we go lower, but the 4-year cycle is not intact. So what that means is, like, timing wise, yes, we're going lower just as the 4-year cycle is stipulated to end. But like price movement wise, we're not going to go as low as we used to go. And I'm of that opinion as well, because now you just have so much natural buyers outside of crypto. For like a decade, crypto used to be this like basically retail only asset with very, very few TradFi institutions buying it. But then now you have like ETFs, you have DATs, you have actual like demand from outside. And like, I think that's what supports Bitcoin in becoming like this asset that decorrelates from the broader 4-year thesis and more into like a macro / equities beta. And obviously, like, that changes from market environment. The interesting thing about Bitcoin is that sometimes it shows correlation to its equities, whereas other times it shows correlations to gold. I'm not sure what the correlation is now, but it's like basically the takeaway is more like it moves on its own. And so because of that, I kind of think the 4-year cycle is over for Bitcoin and so for alts as well. But I think alts are in like a cycle of their own, because like I'm of the opinion that none of these things have a very, very strong bull case for them. Like, the natural floor or the natural direction alts head to in a market when nothing happens is downwards. It doesn't stay flat because, again, inflation. And basically because there's no regulatory clarity on what alts are. So I think a lot of the big buyers out there like TradFi find it hard to buy alts because like no one knows what a token is, right? Token, is it equity? Is it like points? Is it like, I don't know, attention? And so it makes it hard for them to buy. So alts are kind of in their own like liquidity state, I'd say, basically.
Yeah. But so there are altcoin ETFs about to be rolled out in the US. The filings are finished. The review process is right now. We had the head of the CEO of Canary Capital on recently. He spoke about how they've been working on the filing of a lot of these ETFs, and that October into early November is basically the time period where these would be launched. Do you think that is enough of a catalyst to get people excited about alts again, or do you think that we all thought that ETFs were going to be what brings Bitcoin and ETH to new highs, but we were wrong? It was just these treasury companies that did it. Do you think that the ETFs will have any sort of significant impact on altcoin flows, or just because they exist doesn't mean that the demand will come from investors with access to them?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I think I'd first clarify that ETFs did bring Bitcoin to new highs, because like Bitcoin's ETF launched like January, right? And it was like 40K back then, and it's like 100K now. I think DATs did bring ETH to new highs, because like Tom Lee and SBAT, that was pretty clear. But I'd say that on a broad basis, ETFs are not nothing. The thing is I'd say when it comes to evaluating this thing, it's easier to see what they do rather than what they say. So I'd say all of these are like more lagging indicators. What you want to do is you actually want to see if there's any demand for these altcoin ETFs instead of like pre-positioning it, because like it can go very wrong, or like it wouldn't move in the direction. You always have time to like position yourself for this trade. And so like for these altcoin ETFs, there's a couple of questions you want to ask yourself, right? One is like, okay, what are the tokens in these ETFs? Two is like, okay, do people want to buy these tokens? Like, I don't know, like, are they tokens that people want to own and stuff like that? Bitcoin, the thesis is clear, right? Like, I mean, you picture a TradFi, you say it's like digital gold, it's like sovereign, blah, blah, blah. And then for ETH now, Tom Lee is saying it's basically like the basically world computer, stable coins, and all this stuff. Whereas altcoins, there's so many, right? Like, I don't specifically know what the pitch is for them. So it's like it's a bit off. I'd say like DATs themselves will do more for altcoins than altcoin ETFs, because DATs are more individualized, right? Like your one alt launches one DAT, and all that buying pressure goes towards that one alt and nothing else. So it's like there's like direct inflows, whereas altcoin ETFs it's hard to say whether people buy.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know why a mom and pop from, you know, rural Connecticut with like a couple $1 million in their 401k is going to decide that it's a good time to buy the XLM ETF now. You know, maybe they see an ad on a baseball stadium or something for Tezos, and they're like, you know, so yeah, I'm not sure the demand equation there either. Question for you. Plasma just launched today. I believe they launched around like, let's see, it launched around like 10 billion FDV. I believe now it's at about 8 billion FDV right now. Do you think XBL at this current valuation is cheap or expensive, and why?
Wow, this is a hard question, because I feel like if I say the wrong thing, the crowd's gonna come for me. I think
who cares
on a FDV, I think on a FDV basis, it's not cheap, I'd say. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is like, I still don't really understand the use case of Plasma. It's like an L2 token, but like hasn't the entire market hated like these kinds of narratives for a while? And then secondly, it's like they are giving liquidity incentives in XPL. So like the Plasma USDT pool is like giving Plasma out. So it's like kind of a pool 2 token, which is not great demand wise, like because you're giving tokens to people and they'll naturally sell it. So that's one. Two, it's like I haven't seen, like, I'm a trader, right? So I think it's very important to look at how people are positioned into this. A good example is like a pump, right? Like at the bottom, pump was like no one was positioned in it. Everyone, all the bulls from the ICO just got washed, and you know, it was like super clear that there were no like bullish people, and so that's why it was like more asymmetric. Here it's like the opposite, where it's like there's only bulls. Like everywhere I just see people talking about how Plasma is like going to change the world. And I know like Tether just said they were going to raise, and you know, people are really excited over it. But like, I don't know, like it just feels that expectations are very overinflated. And the Bursting Bagel was like one of my favorite accounts on Twitter, actually posted like a good bear thread on it today, like a few hours ago. It's really good to read. Basically, he said what I just said, like expectations are overinflated, and on top of that, he makes the comp to Tron, which I think it's very good, because like the point he tries to make is like Tron has like most of USDT while Plasma doesn't. So Tron has distribution, right? And Plasma has to build that from the ground up, and so it's like it's gonna be hard. And at like 7 bill FDV, when they have like very little to show for it, like what's gonna push this up? You know, like if you're telling me like it launches at 7 bill FDV, but the entire world uses it, then yeah, like I'd say it's like undervalued. But like, you know, this is a fairly new product, and I'd say that it just doesn't seem very asymmetric to go long right now, I feel.
One of the things that I heard from the Origin Summit here in Korea, Justin Sun was on stage talking to SY from Story, and he was talking about the potential for a Tron stablecoin, which I think would force a lot of the Tether to move off of Tron. And probably where would it go? It'd probably go towards more of a Tether aligned chain. And I think, you know, I think that is that wouldn't be the first example of something like this happening. Like if you look at Hyperliquid and the USDH, like, you know, that's a little bit more of a special situation. It wouldn't just leave all of that USDC. There'd be some sort of conversion process or something, but it's a similar situation in which you can kind of understand how, you know, there's demand for a more native stablecoin within the ecosystem. And it leaves you thinking like, well, what happens to the stablecoins that are there? But Kyle, I actually want to ask you a little bit of a different question, like more off of Plasma and more onto like the market situation that we're seeing play out right now. Like,
yeah,
you know, you mentioned kind of, you know, you were caught off sides a little bit. How do you manage a position when you're, if you're long in the top, like what, and then you kind of have the situation, you know, how are you going to manage this going forward? Look, everyone makes mistakes. You know, we've done it, you've done it, everyone does it, right? But how do you rectify the situation so that you don't, you know, lose the house, right? Because the market moves away from you and you feel this sunken cost, but also you're able to kind of manage your risk appropriately.
Yeah. I'd say I start with the fact that I don't use stop losses. So this is probably a very, very big red flag depending on how you look at it. But I basically like hand manage a lot of my positions, and a lot of it is fundamental underwriting. So I was very lucky because the coins that I were long didn't move as much. Like for example, Mental, right? Mental basically went from I published a piece on Mental yesterday, but basically Mental went from like something like 1.8 and it dipped all the way to 1.4, but then rebounded back to 1.8. So like, you know, I was pretty lucky that I basically just held all the way, and I was like, okay, this is fine. And obviously, like you get out of your perps positions once it breaks even, and then you look for entries lower. That's for the more fundamental stuff, I'd say. I'd say for the more like degen perp stuff, yes, you should always use stop loss for that. But when it comes to like fundamental underwriting, you kind of have to look at the fundamentals and ask yourself like, are the fundamentals still in play? And if it is, you know, you should be happy to buy it at a lower price, because theoretically that would mean that it is still undervalued. And that's why I don't use stop loss for like fundamental investing basically in crypto, although that's very, very difficult. And I wouldn't suggest everyone to do it, but yeah, that's just how I roll. Yeah. And I guess like to what you said, when you're caught long in the top, I think one of the most important things for me is to not get caught up in my emotions. Like I will always I'll see red and I'm like, oh my God, this feels like shit. I want to cut everything and just like start afresh. But like, you know, then you realize the gains. So you realize the losses, right? And sometimes the market bounces back in the coins that you're in, and you can actually get out at a less of a loss. So it's like really important to just like keep your cool head, like really just meditate, step away from the bit, like just calm your emotions. And you look back at the market and you're like, okay, how do I manage this? And sometimes some good advice I have is like, you can always open a short against your long, so that you kind of just like stay stable at the current price. That sometimes works. Sometimes I do that, but otherwise it's just like keeping your emotions in check, and like just sometimes you just eat drawdown, honestly. Like for certain things, you know, if the fundamentals are still intact, you should be happy to buy it, and you just eat the drawdown and just like kind of figure out, okay, is this gonna come back? If it is, I should be happy and I should like start buying. Basically, that's basically like Mental right now. It's like 1.6, right? And I kind of like got in at a pretty bad price, but I'm just like, okay, I mean, this is fine. I'm just writing drawdown, and you know, or like same with like Hyperliquid, those people that wrote it from like $30 to $9 and all the way back to like 50, right? Like, yeah. It's like crypto.
Yeah, that's crypto for you. That's for sure. Kyle, who are some of your favorite trading accounts to follow on Twitter? You know, give us some accounts for our audience to tap into. We'll clip this. Who are some of your favorite traders to follow that are undervalued on Twitter right now?
Favorite traders to follow. I actually like so there's this guy called 𝘗𝘪𝘵, _DADDY. He posts really good market takes, but he doesn't post as often. And then Bursting Bagel, the guy I mentioned earlier. Of course, I have to shout out like my boss, Arthur _OX. and like I guess a few others. I actually kind of like DCF God. Like DCF God, he sometimes drops alpha on like he doesn't trade, I feel, but it's more like he finds like kind of mispriced assets. So it's like kind of interesting trade ideas to look for. And then Crypto Nexus is also a good trader. Gold Crypto as well, all very good traders. And there's like off of Twitter, there's like a few Telegram channels you should follow. One is of course like Pigeon, ENAS, who used to be on Twitter, but he's off Twitter. He runs a Telegram channel now. I think it's a very, very good Telegram channel. Join. Yeah, and those are the few off the top of my head, I guess.
Yeah, Pigeon is one of my favorite, the levels guy. I like him a lot. I like his stuff. Kyle, last thing for you before we let you go here. What is your opinion on pump here at 0.5 of a cent?
Pump. Wow, that's interesting. Let me look at the metrics.
Yeah, so it had that big run up from the ICO all the way almost to a cent. It's pulled back nearly 50% now. Yeah, what do you think about that here?
Yeah, I think it's okay here. Like I always have that chart that I've drawn a couple of times where it's like fundamentals of a product goes up into the right, but price always oscillates around the fundamental. Like it overshoots really high and it comes back down, and then it overshoots again, because like that's just like cyclicality of like markets. And so you kind of want to find a point where you feel pump is like way overshot there. Intuitively, I feel that pump is kind of fair value-ish here. It's not like a screaming buy, but I don't think it's like a screaming sell as well. That's how I feel. I think basically what I do is I continue monitoring it. I want to see like if streaming can actually take off, get the huge amount of influx of users that they say that it would, and like new stuff. And I think, you know, as they start implementing new features, I don't know, streaming and whatever else they have in the pipeline, and as revenue grows, then you can kind of see, oh, at 5 cents, it looks more and more undervalued compared to the fundamentals that are growing. But right now, I'd say it's okay. Like I wouldn't like, it's not a strong buy, I'd say, but it's also not a strong sell. It's like pretty fairly priced, I feel.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents anyways.
Kyle, man, wish you the best of luck. No more longing tops. We appreciate you spending some time with us today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Keep it up. I'll see you in the trenches on TG, bro.
Yeah, see you, man. Bye.
We'll see you next time. Thanks
Kyle.
Kyle.
Alrighty, dude. Alrighty. Couldn't quite tell if he was super bullish or bearish, but it sounds like, he's kind of looking at Mantle. He's got his own take on the state of things with hyperliquid plasma pump, and generally just how to manage those trades. So,
well, I think he's, kind of a short time horizon guy.
Yeah, definitely is. So, yeah, guys, we got Ray Chen, founder of 9gag, Memeland, MemeStrategy. Should be a fun conversation with Ray. He's got quite a bit of experience in the NFT market, in crypto market, etc. So let's get Ray up on stage. Last segment. Ray, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, GM,
sir. First time on the show. Good to see you. Robbie's in Korea. I'm back home in Florida. We're calling in from all around the world here. I think you might be over there in Asia somewhere as well. Great to have you. Would love to just get a quick intro, man. Who's Ray? How'd you get into crypto? Kind of tell us a bit about your story. We've not met before, so would love to just get a quick background on you.
Yeah, sure. My co-founders and I started a small company called 9gag like 17 years ago. It's right now the biggest like meme sharing platform on earth. About 3-4 years ago, I started to get into crypto, right? First NFT, and then bought a lot of NFTs, spent a lot of like ETH to buy NFTs, and then launch our own NFT collections, and then launch our token, right? The token is called Meme Coin. And then the beginning of this year, we bought a public company in Hong Kong, and then we renamed it MemeStrategy. So the joke that I always say is we started to share meme before Satoshi created Bitcoin.
So MemeStrategy, is this like a digital asset treasury type of vehicle?
More than that. Yeah, we have something called ABC, AI blockchain culture. Right? I think just accumulating crypto is kind of like boring, right? I think on one hand, we probably will do it, but on the other hand, we will also try to build something using blockchain, building for culture, right? Using AI as well. Yeah, let's see what we can do with all this new technology.
Very cool. And so how do you envision that going? Like when you think about culture, you think about memes, you think about blockchain, you know, we're content creators. We think about the creator economy a lot. You know, we're kind of building out, you know, some of that technology as well. How do you think these technologies how do you think these things are going to emerge, and how do you think they will converge with culture?
Basically, content is part of culture, right?
Yeah.
And in the past, if you think about culture, right, it's only about like singer or like movie stars and stuff, right? But right now, because of social media, everyone can become creator, right? So basically, we can say that everyone is part of culture. As long as you're willing to create, you can create something, some content, right? And if you're consistent enough, if you are persistent enough, right, basically your content will get seen by someone, right? That's why we have a lot of like so-called like influencer, and these days we also have like micro influencer, right? So you don't just have to influence a lot of people; you can just influence people around you. I think those are part of the cultural shifts that we can see, right? Because right now, content creation is basically decentralized. And I believe that with more application of blockchain, with more application of AI, I believe there will be more content getting released, more creativity getting unleashed, right? So for us, it's more about how can we leverage the technology to help spread that culture forward. Yeah.
So when I'm thinking about culture and in the frame of kind of the blockchain infrastructure, as well as in the frame of thinking about the technology age, you know, culture is always shifting. Like there are like trends that happen and they last for like 3 to 6 months, and then it's just like they go into this collective amnesia where it's almost like it never happened because the next thing has already happened and is happening in front of you. And so you get this really weird dynamic where people become obsessed with something, so obsessed with something that they tie their identity to it. And then that trend holistically slows down in the global context, but continues with these more like local, diehard, true culture communities and fans. And so what you end up getting is like over a 5-year span, you get these like little subgroups that form around these trends that happen more globally for like 3 to 6 months. You know, I'm curious, when you think about these subgroups, what is it that keeps people involved in a specific culture and trend? Like maybe you could talk to us about some of the most compelling trends that you've seen in the last 5 to 10 years and why they were so successful compared to other trends that were just flash in the pan trends. Like what makes a trend or a cultural phenomenon sticky? Like what makes an idea sticky?
This is a very deep question. I mean, what you just said, I think is partly true to me. On one hand, we can see a lot of like so-called trends, they easy come, easy go, right? But if you zoom out and then look at the category of those trends, right, it's actually kind of like stay along for a very, very long time, right? For example, oh, maybe there's a new anime that coming up and then everyone is talking about it, for example, like solo leveling, right? And then maybe it will die down when the season finish. But if you zoom out, basically the whole category of anime has been around for like decades, right? So you can see kind of like that kind of shift. And then on the other hand, maybe a more recent example would be like Labubu, right? I mean, Labubu, people suddenly knew about it like for like in the recent like 3 to 6 months, right? But Pop Mart as a company it's been around for almost like 10 years, right? So I would say that individual trends, they comes and go, but the bigger like category actually stays, right? One of the really example that I personally experienced a lot is actually memes, right? Because we started Nightget like 17 years ago, right? At the time, people were only calling memes like funny pictures, right? But right now, even mainstream media, they are using meme as marketing, right? But if you look at the so-called life cycle of each of the individual memes, it's getting shorter and shorter, right? People don't remember like Hawk 2 Girl anymore, right? But people will still remember like 𝘂𝘓𝗵𝗏𝗏, some of the classic meme and stuff like that. So I believe that individual memes comes and go, and the life cycle will be getting shorter and shorter. But the category itself is actually here to stay. Yeah.
So then what about Labubu, for example, made it so popular? Why did that win when thousands of others didn't win?
I mean, it's a mixture of a lot of things, right? And to be honest, any commentator, right, it's like only like hindsight 2020, right? Because Labubu got a promotion from Lisa of Blackpink. Oh, because Pop Mart has all this like distribution channel. Oh, because they are doing a great job at like social media, right? But to be honest, it's a mix of a lot of things. Yeah, and to be honest, sometimes we need a little bit of luck, right? Because honestly, right, for Pop Mart, they probably use the same formula to promote a lot of these like small toys for a very long time. It's just some of them they pop up, right? Some of them they catches on, right? So I believe that it's a mix of like hard work, a mix of like strategy, a mix of like luck as well.
Yeah. So then maybe to drill in a bit on the strategy point and what you're seeing at 9gag with Memeland and just generally the work that you guys have done. You know, back in the day, right, when we didn't have social media and really internet usage as much, culture would be distributed via magazines, newspapers, radio, mail. Eventually, we got blogs and email and this type of marketing, but it was all around this pop culture, around movies, TV shows, magazines, and that's how culture was distributed. And that's really how it was formed and created. Now we've got this entire new world of creating content, as you've mentioned, that allows for culture to spread rapidly and be created in new forms, as you mentioned with memes. What do you think are the key differences in the way people have been receiving new trends and new ideas in this new world? Maybe you can relate to some of the work that you've done and some of the successes that you've had with a given strategy or a given method to, distribute your memes far and wide. Like, this new world is definitely a different form of spreading information and spreading culture. What are some of the key differences for creators in today's world if they really want to make an impact in spreading their culture?
All the questions you ask are like billion-dollar questions, right? I think that's what all these like marketing agency, all these like advertising agency, they want to know. I mean, I don't have any like insights, right? But I can share my experience. After all, we've been spending time on content, right? On memes, on social media for a long time. The way that I see it is, I think the presence of more powerful tools, right, actually helps a lot. In the past, there are only very few channels, very few media where you can get to shine, right? So you have to go to Hollywood in order to become like a big movie star, or you have to get on TV station in order to make the whole world know you, right? But with YouTube, with all these new media platform, I mean, YouTube is not new anymore, right? But at the time it was new. Basically, it lowers the barrier, lowers the entry barrier of like content creation. And then with all these like new AI tools, right? Even like in the past, like 10 years ago, right? Instagram, right? Instagram, the presence, right, of Instagram make everyone a good photographer, right? Because you can add filter, right? Even though you suck at like taking photos, right? And then I think that will make more people become like creator. I believe that when there are like a lot of content, right, I think it's easier for like good creators to learn from each other as well. Because unlike traditional industry, content industry is actually very interesting. It's very public. Basically, everything that you do is public. If you launch some good marketing campaign, I can see it. I can learn from it. I can kind of like reverse engineering why this is hot, why this works, right? And a lot of like smart people getting into the industry helps that more content getting created, right? And more competition. And I believe that it's almost like the more good content, right? The more good creators will join, and somehow it also increases the whole like a flywheel of like content creation. And because people know that, oh shit, I can make money, right, by creating content, right? I don't have to work at a TV station anymore, right? They just start their own YouTube channel, they start their own TikTok, Instagram. And because of that, and also with all this like new like monetization, right? Yeah, and somehow it makes you become a star. You don't have to be a superstar, right? You just have to be a content creator with certain support, then you can make a living. And because of that, it makes like the so-called like self-media become like so popular. And I think that helps a lot, right? Because it's almost like, hey, the more that you see new creation in that category, right, the more people will join and the better people will join. Yeah, so I think it's almost like inevitable to see there will be more and more competition, because with AI, you don't even have to be pretty, right? And then you can pretend to be pretty, right? And then you don't have to have a good voice, but you can now host your own podcast with a good voice, right? Because of AI. So I believe that we are coming to an age of like very interesting, like for content and also for content creation. Yeah,
I
Right,
totally agree.
What's your favorite meme?
I mean, I have to say 𝘗𝘳𝗧𝗪𝗧𝘏. I don't know whether you guys know that guy. It's like the old man. He is smiling, but you can feel like he has pain, right? And I think that's kind of what I feel about life, right? It's almost like, hey, life kind of sucks, right? Life is a struggle, but at the same time, you also have to smile every day to face it. Yeah, and I kind of feel like this embrace my own like philosophy towards life. That's why this is my favorite meme.
Beautiful. Ray, what are some of the biggest success stories that have came out of 9gag and just generally the work that you've done?
Honestly, the way that we see 9gag is we are not the so-called creator platform, right? We are more like a social media platform where people share the funny content, right? I believe that 9gag had contributed, right, to how meme getting mainstream. Because I remember when we started 9gag like 17 years ago, memes was like very insider. It only kind of like appears on like internet forums like 4chan, like Reddit in the past, right? But somehow because we kind of because I'm from Hong Kong, right? So for me, I don't spend that much time on the Western like internet forums, right? What I see is okay. Or Facebook started to get more popular, right? Why can't I share funny pictures on Facebook? Why can't we make a simple website that looks clean enough so that we can just share the funny content there? And because of Facebook's growth and also all these like social media's growth, we kind of like bridge the gap between like very, I would say, nerdy, geeky, like internet forum, right, into the more mainstream social media. That's why right now for 9gag, right, we have like 16 million followers on Instagram. And most people, they know 9gag not because they go to our website or they use our app, right? It's because of social media. And from time to time, there are a lot of like new memes, right, that pop up everywhere. Right, I believe that 9gag has contributed part of it, like the 𝘗𝘳𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗧 that I mentioned. In the past, there was like an overly attached girlfriend, bad luck Brian, and then like photogenic guy, right? I mean, all these like old memes, right? And also some new memes like chill guy and all these guys. I think we kind of like a part of it, right? But to be honest, we can't take the credit because honestly, none of the platform, right, can take the credit because it's more like by the people. Right. And as a platform, we can only kind of like keep servicing good content, keep servicing to make it easy for people to share, to remove the friction.
Yeah. Ray, last thing I have for you, let's talk about the financialization of these memes and of this culture. Maybe you can just give us the evolution of how, the internet has created such a financialized culture around, turning memes into markets and what that means for the work that you guys do.
I think there are like multiple reasons, right, behind that. Number one, I think meme is very viral, right? And people who love memes, they kind of like speak the same language, right? No matter where you're from. And as you know, right, a lot of the stuff that people do in crypto, right, is always about community, right? If there is a lot of people behind certain content, right, behind certain meme, that is almost like by definition, there's a community. And when there's a community, people in Web3 think, hey, can I turn it into something like something of value, right? Can we just support this like funny meme coin? Can we just support this some funny like a meme phenomenon? And by doing that, somehow people create all these like meme coins, right? That's why you can see like Doge, you can see Pepe, you can see like Bong, right? All these like asset, right? But at the same time, you can also see that another reason behind is because of the legal concern, right? A lot of these like traditional like tokens, right? If you tell people that there's like utility, there's like a financial return value, they kind of like become securities, right? They kind of become like collective investment scheme. I mean, but meme coins basically safe because you literally tell people that, hey, this is like for entertainment purpose only. And I think until the law becomes like very clear, right? A lot of the people, a lot of the creators, they just launch a meme coin because to them it's like an experiment. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, okay, this is just an experiment for them. So for us as Memeland, right, what we try to do is, hey, we call the token meme coin. We call the token, the ticker is meme. the goal is, hey, can we kind of like bridge Web 2 and Web 3? Because to a lot of like Web 2 creators, Web 3 is like a scam. Web 3 is very scary, right? Because the moment you launch a token, people think that you're a scammer. But at the same time, Web 3 talks about like mass adoption all day. But the thing is, hey, if you need mass adoption, you actually need to bring the technology to people. We cannot always think about, oh, how can we onboard the millions, right? It's more about how we can bring the technology to millions of people, right? So for us at MemeLand and I get MemeStrategy, right? That's what we try to do. Yeah.
Beautiful. Ray Chan, CEO of 9gag, incredible career, incredible platform that you've built. Thank you for spending some time with us today. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to what you guys build next and coming back on the show and chatting about it, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Alrighty, Ray.
See you next time. Thanks,
Get
Ray.
some rest, man. Alrighty, guys, that's the stream for today. Fun stream. Thanks for being with us, guys. If you got the base app invite codes, congratulations. There'll be more where that came from. Thanks for being around. Thanks for being a part of the show. We will be back tomorrow and see you guys then. Thanks, guys. Peace.